Agni. Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rishi,
Shunah Shepa Ajigarti.
Devata, Agni, Chandas, Gayatri. Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 1.
Surely, Master of energies, partaker of sacrificial offerings, do wear clothes, do accomplish together this our unobstructed sacrifice. Embodiment of gods through hymns. Humans conceptualize gods, giving them imaginary structural representations according to their own form, embodying them, a process that can conclude with a length of cloth covering most parts of their bodies or proceed to include the most elaborate cosmetic accoutrements, keeping with the relative aesthetic sophistication of the one who does the embodiment, like the composer of a dedicated hymn, signifying various functional traits of the god in focus. Singing hymns in praise of gods, describing their functionality in metaphors associated with accoutrements of everyday use that are familiar to the composer, is the process of embodiment. Apart from being a display of the aesthetic and literary skills, it has practical utility as well. It is a design for a pan-mature audience to understand the functions of various natural forces in unsophisticated language and in terms of accustomed objects and activities. In short, it enables most people to easily understand life, its ways, and the role of natural forces in it. This makes every activity a lived experience, personalizing abstractions, causes every activity to be truly understood as a sacrifice, and makes life and living meaningful. Needless to say, such embodiments would be a mix of truth and logically extended imaginations. If such extensions are well reasoned, then they should surely be considered valid.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 2.
Agni, our priest presenting oblation, most young, desirable by thoughts, do sit down nearby with heavenward speech. Vedic biomimetics. Technologies used during Vedic times for cloud seeding, decontamination of the atmosphere aimed at the reduction of bacterial and viral pathogens as well as free radicals could be classified under biomimetics. It is a reasonable deduction from the notion of duality that everything in nature has an opposite with equal intensity of expression. In other words, nature surely has a solution to every problem we may face. Analyzing these problems and their effects is science. Adapting the ways that nature devises to counter any expression with its opposite to solve our specific problems is technology. Not just humans, but all mortal life forms formulate such adaptations to sustain themselves within the limits of their understanding and ability imposed by body structures and pattern of living. The first step towards such adaptability is the study, analysis, and understanding of the natural phenomenon. This verse broadly explores the phenomenon of fire for use as the common medium to design and put to work the three technologies mentioned. The first trait described is spontaneity, trait of those young. The next useful trait from the perspective of requirement is physical reach to places that humans cannot, which is upwards. Fire transfers heat to the air around, which immediately begins to move rapidly upwards. Figuratively, it acts as a messenger carrying both intent, thoughts, and matter to the regions inaccessible to humans and where the hub of action is. Fire can be easily handled and controlled by humans and can even be denotatively made to sit nearby within the altar. The desired technology is built around these traits of energy or Agni.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 3.
For verily, father for offspring, friend for friend, accomplishes sacrifice, desirable associate for associate. Activities: propagational, motivational, and participatory. Enumeration of traits of Agni for the exploration of the phenomenon of fire for the purpose of its use as a medium to design and put to work in biomimetic technologies to further human requirements, an exercise that started in the previous verse continues in this one as well. For the sake of analysis, its expressiveness is categorized upon its decreasing order of fervency as being propagational, motivational, and participatory. The cognizance of mortality is the cause of the propagational urge in mortals. It is the most fervent of Agni's expressiveness, dealing with the abiding mortal requirement of perpetuating the notion of the self in its currently recognized material form and temporal identity. This is the sacrifice of a father for an offspring, mentioned in the verse, with both being facets of Agni, bound unidirectionally by the propagational urge. This urge enduringly binds all objects to their impassioned expressions, like a composer to compositions in any field of activity, cutting across species of mortals. Sacrificial activities classified as motivational and between friends are bidirectional and perhaps less enduring. Change being the norm of existence, the order of fervency of a friendship too is subject to change, leading to a proportional increase or decrease of sacrificial activities between any given pair of friends. Activities of the sacrificial kind involving associates are at best ephemeral and transitory, need-driven. There are no thematic compulsions like propagational urges or friendship to make them more abiding, lasting as long as the validity of the impelling need. Agni's relevance, however, is the common denominator of all these activities.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 4.
आनो बलिः विषाद सोमरुणो मित्रो अर्यमा सीदम् तुमनुषो यथा
Destroyers of enemies, Varuna, Mitra, Aryama, do sit down upon our kusha grass, verily as people. Aryaman, the super-ego. Born and living in duality, we have dual personalities too. One that is bountiful and liberal, and the other that is frugal and conservative in all manner of expression. One is represented by Mitra and the other by Varuna. Aryaman is the voice of reason within us, the one that maintains balance between the first two, keeping us from being overindulgent with either. In nature, perhaps dawn with its rising sun and advent of light, inducing aspirations to fly high in abandon, symbolizes liberality, while dusk and its setting sun, denotive of the onset of darkness, signifies frugality and conservativeness. The midday sun, with its scorching bounteousness and the reasoned decision by those exposed to it, seeking shadows to protect themselves from being scorched, epitomizes Aryaman. The enemies that Aryaman protects us from are the hurting glare of extreme magnanimity and the debilitating shadows of frugal luminescence. Psychologically, he shares attributes of Sigmund Freud's superego, the aspect of consciousness representing things that one knows deep within, which tells us to do the right things in any situation and is well reasoned. He can said to be the power of determination that enables us to transcend above the whims of the ego, the wayward mind that ever remains unsatiated with yearnings and desires. He is the one who will bestow joy and power when merited, while Varuna is more inclined towards delivering penal justice when warranted.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 5.
ऊर्जाहोदरस्य नो मन्दस्त्वसख्यस्य च इमा पुरुश्रुधीगिराः
Precedent, priest-calling divinities, do rejoice of this friend and do hear well these invocations. A precedent for everything, Agni. From the human viewpoint, vision is the primary tool of perception. Space and air are the first two derivatives from the manifest singularity at the dawn of creation, from the standpoint of both Vedic thought and contemporary science, and hence eligible to be considered as corroborated truth, there being no known third or more standpoints on this issue. Both cannot be seen using the faculty of vision, though they can be sensed otherwise. The element of energy, Agni, of which fire is one representation, the next derivative from the manifest singularity becomes the first visible element that is also sensed by other faculties and also experienced through its expressions. So, Agni and its various manifestations become the precedent for all knowledge and understanding. As described in verse 3 of this Suktam, he is like a father, a friend, and an associate to all mortals in existence, the cause for every effect upon them, and the impeller that turns every effect into a new cause, thus sustaining existence in its progression. Having declared our social relationships with Agni, it naturally follows that as the propagator, motivator, or associate rejoices in the experience of such exchanges, so does Agni. And it is superfluous to mention that we, as witnesses of such exchanges, do so too, and articulate it as invocations. This manner of viewing existence promotes a feeling of inclusiveness and belonging, a feeling that makes living life a pleasure.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 6.
यच्चिद्दिशस्मतातना देवम् देवम् यजामहे वेयुद्धूयते हविः.
For even when, by repeated propagation, we perform sacrifice to God, God, for you, indeed, oblation is offered. Agni's allegiance. Whatever be the intent, sentiment, or need behind an activity, wisdom will indicate that all activities must surely be offerings to the manifest Supreme. It is existence script played out through the instrumentality of dharma and karma that is acknowledged and celebrated either unconsciously or in awareness by every individual, animate or inanimate, mortal or immortal, neuter, female or male, regardless of the whimsical conceit of ego. Duality being what it is, the three categories of activities that Agni engages in, propagational, motivational, and participatory, will certainly have their antagonistic counterparts, hibernatory, inimical, and impishly casual, with Agni being engaged in them as well, as actively as he is in the first set. The two sets of activities occur cyclically, a pictorial description of which can be a section of a sinusoidal wave representing a bell curve that betokens the process of creation and dissolution of the universe, the sinusoidal wave from which it is derived indicating the cyclicality of occurrence of this combination. The bell curve here describes progression rather than distribution, as it is more often associated with by this nomenclature. It is perhaps incorrect to view Agni as the impeller of creation alone. That he is, but he is also the impeller of dissolution at its appointed time. Agni's allegiance is to the script, as is that of all mortals, even if unknowingly.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 7.
प्रियो अस्तु विस्पतिर्होता मन्द्रो वरेण्यः प्रिया स्वप्नयो भयम्.
Beloved to us, master of all mortals, deep-sounding, desirable priest calling divinities, one who has good energy, may we be loved. Agni, the friendly neighborhood Superman. The deep-sounding roar of a forest fire, or the more common and soft crackling yet pleasantly ominous sound of fire in a sacrificial altar, is the source of one of the epithets, mandra, used to refer to Agni in this verse. For mortals whose thoughts remain bound by duality, there would be this tendency to differentiate activities according to whether they are beneficial or inimical to themselves. In those mortals whose thoughts have transcended the threshold of awareness and who are cognizant of the universal script, tend to marvel at its robust expressions and witness activities from a universal viewpoint. This makes Agni their favorite and friendly neighborhood Superman, and do they love him? Having accordingly personified Agni, they project their own sentiments upon their Superman as well, and declare that Agni too must marvel at the uniqueness of every mortal that he helps fashion, and the array of expressions that he helps them present with relative ease and great versatility, making them to be convinced that their Superman loves them equally in return. Being the primary impeller of change, Agni is appropriately assigned one of the two exalted positions in the hierarchy of immortals, the other being decreed for Indra from the mortal perspective, and Agni, called the master of all mortals, another epithet that fits his character very well indeed.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 8.
स्वप्नयो हि वार्यम् देवासो दधिरे च नः स्वप्नयो मनामहे.
For divinities with fire in them have granted to us valuables, and we with fire in us set our minds on divinities. Agni and his articulations. It is true that Agni resides in all mortals as well as immortals. In mortals, it resides as nuclear forces that bind fundamental particles in atoms that make up our bodies, as chemical energy that make our bodies work as they do, in digestion of food, extraction of nutrients from it, and storing away energy as chemical compounds for emergency use. Any material collective possesses an inherent gravitational attraction. The gravitational force of the earth being colossally larger than that of our comparatively puny bodies, we don't realize or perceive this force and the energy that propels it, but it surely exists. Mortal bodies absorb and emit electromagnetic radiation. Energy of sunlight is absorbed by life forms through eyes and skin. They also exhibit thermal radiation in the infrared band. This accounts for almost all energy types collectively referred to as Agni that separate from the manifest supreme, represented by the primordial ball of plasma, from which the material universe is said to have evolved. And all these energies reside within every mortal body and work in a manner identical to the way they would anywhere else in the universe. This is the basis of the truth upon which the adage, as is a mortal body, so is the universe, yat pinde tat brahmande, rests. In immortals also, who are personified conceptions of natural forces, singly or collectively, with specific functionalities by human minds, these fundamental forces, figuratively impelled by Agni, and hence referred to as its expressions, dwell. Our thoughts too, that identify one bestowal as valuable and another valueless, are propelled by electrical and chemical energies. Agni majestically presides over all these various expressions of itself. We mortals set our minds on him by writing about, reading, and understanding his ways.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 9.
अथानभुवयेषामृतमर्त्यानाम् निधस्सन्तु प्रशस्तयः.
Then, immortal, let our laudations of both kinds of mortals be reciprocal. Reciprocity of exchanges between mortals and immortals. Strictly speaking, the supposed immortals are mortals too. It is only that they have a lifespan that corresponds to the duration of the universe itself, which induces humans who can neither witness their advent nor their extinction to consider them to be immortals. As Agni and its various manifestations are involved in everything that mortals do, it is quite natural for them to acknowledge this fact, to laud Agni for his abilities in the realization that they can never match his abilities nor strive to build a contrivance to mimic his competency, which instills the notion of Agni being superior and so fit to be worshipped. The verse states that even other immortals indulge in laudation of Agni because Agni is an important feature in their respective expressions as well. As Agni too requires the assistances of the other immortals to give effect to his manifestations, it is understandable that there be reciprocity in laudations between immortals, an instance of exertion of the I scratch your back, you scratch mine syndrome. An allusion to this syndrome at play between immortals may appear inappropriate, but because humans view immortals according to their own mind constructs to explain their observations, a syndrome observed in the human realm unwittingly gets projected upon the expressions of those constructs. There is quite another notion at play when it comes to reciprocity of laudations between mortals and immortals. Human seers, through their exalted awareness, understand that in a script-driven universe, there cannot be any distinction in essentiality between any two identities of the script, between mortals and immortals. Every object of the script derives its character on the basis of the rest, which makes reciprocity of laudation a legitimate expectation and a valid occurrence.
Mandalam 1, Suktam
26.
Rik 10.
विश्वेभिरग्ने अग्निभिरिमम् यज्ञमिदम् वचाः सनोधाः सहसोऽयः.
Agni, with all expressive energies, do uphold this sacrifice, this delightful speech, son of might. Majestic speeding horse, Agni. The epithet son of might is the outcome of the reasoning that Agni, as well as all immortals, are the offspring of Purusha, the singular truth, and Prakriti, the might of expression of this truth. Every immortal has its unique set of expressions, and so does Agni, which is as gravity, electromagnetism, energies impelling nuclear forces, chemical energy, thermal energy, and the energy of intent and thought. With this repertoire of techniques and skills, no activity in the universe can be without his express participation that he accomplishes in spontaneity, agility, and speed. This manner of expression of his skills makes the composer to use the metaphor of the majestic spectacle of a speeding horse, with the hairs of his tail fluttering and careening from side to side in his wake, to represent Agni. As a majestic speeding horse, Agni carries awareness of universal truths to the seeker and also carries the seeker's intent, yearnings, and invocations to the immortals, which essentially provides an assessment to the seeker of his own progress in understanding the universe and our place and role in it. It is a natural reaction in mortals to rejoice upon experiencing the beauty of profundity. Since personified immortals are human constructs and humans project their sentiments upon their personifications to be able to interact with them on human terms, Agni too is expected to rejoice in the profundity of the invocations of the seeker that are expressions of truth. If you found this video informative and relevant, please like and share it. If you would like to see more such videos in this ongoing series, please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you for viewing.